Welcome students. Welcome to my second part of my video topic India's internal challenges. As we have already seen that what are the challenges which were faced by India. Look at this map. How beautiful the India is looking. Look at this country. There is unity in diversity. It is rightly said, सारे जहां से अच्छा हिंदुस्तान हमारा. That's why we are very proud to say that we are Indians. Now, my dear students, we have a brief review of what we have learned in the previous video. We have seen a group of people coming with a demand for that one particular region, and even the government of India fulfilled their demand, which was feasible, and the demands were fulfilled. But we could also see that Punjab came with a demand which was not so easy to fulfill. That was, they wanted independent Khalistan. And we saw how central government has conducted an operation to tackle this problem. Now, those operations were Operation Blue Star, Operation Black Thunder. Not only that, we have seen issues concerning Northeast India. We saw what happened in Mizoram and how Mizoram was a part of a full-fledged state of India. Then we could also see Nagaland. There were few educated lot who wanted Naga to be a separate state, not part of India. After several rounds of discussion with the central government, on 1st December 1963, Nagaland was a full-fledged state of India, followed by Assam, and the similar kind of problem which was there even with Arunachal Pradesh. Now, my dear students, now next what I'm going to speak here is the Naxalite movement. As we have all witnessed, we have all seen in the films, maybe in the rural area, it is the reality. That is, there are a group of people who are without land, who don't have their own land, or they may have a small land holding, and they work for others, and others exploit them. And when others exploit them, they agitate. And that is how the terrorists are born. That is how the Naxalites are born. Now you can see here, the Naxalite movement. This movement was started at Naxalbari in Darjeeling district in West Bengal. The Naxalites organized small land holding farmers and land laborers and took charge of the lands, put up red flag and declared that area as a free territory in 1967. All those movements that took inspiration for these rebellions are called Naxalite movement. The movement had an objective of establishing action committee to raise the voice against the exploitation of the farmers by the landlords and confiscate the land of the landlords and distribute it among the tenants. That is, to take those more lands from the landlords and give it to those people who are having less of land or who are having no land. Later, this movement strayed away with its objectives. It took recourse to terrorism to prevent any government schemes and welfare policies reaching to the common people. The Naxalites started a parallel system by rejecting democratic system. This made Naxalism a serious challenge to Indian internal security. Now, where was these Naxalite movements took place? Now it is a question. Was it there only in West Bengal? No. It was not only in West Bengal. Later on, this movement started spreading to East Godavari in Andhra Pradesh, part of Vishakhapatnam, Karimnagar in Telangana, Adilabad, Batsar, and Sukam in Chhattisgarh, Gadchiroli, Bhandara, and parts of Chandrapur in Maharashtra. Then, these are the other areas where this movement started spreading. In order to maintain their influence, the Naxalite established an organization called People's Liberation Guerrilla Army, PLGA. This conflict is still going on, my dear students. The problem is not solved. It is still going on. See, this set of problems which I am going to discuss now in this video is a separate set of problems which is still prevailing in India. It is still going on. And the present government also, they cannot solve it. Now we will see what is communalism. Now it's very simple. We are all very familiar with this term, communalism. Communalism is a serious threat to the unity of our country. Communalism emerged out of a narrow religious pride. Now, who has sown this seed of communalism? Simple, the Britishers. The Britishers have sown the seed of communalism in our country. People of different religion, they were living together with unity in diversity. But while the Britishers, when they were ruling over India, they have sown the seed of communalism. They wanted to break the unity of the Indians. There is nothing wrong in people of different religion living together in a country while being duly proud of their own religion. But when the pride becomes excessive, then it turns into violence. Each one of them begins to consider their religion superior and others inferior. This leads to religious fanaticism. Fanaticism is the base of communalism. It makes one obvious of national interest. People of different religion don't trust each other. They become suspicious of each other. Even communities coming together on a festival becomes rare. As a result, it becomes difficult for everybody to come together and get organized for their demands and the rights as citizens. Fanaticism makes the perspective of looking at event a people's prejudices. Some people begin to think of economic and social questions also in the framework of their own religion. Some people of all religion think that since they belong to a particular religion, they have no influence in politics. They begin to believe that they have been treated unjustly. They hold the idea that the government is partial against the religion. In such conditions, they become too sensitive about their religion and their co-religions. If anybody speaks about the people of their religion or insults the religious symbol, knowingly or unknowingly, the riot break out because of this kind of thinking. Hundreds of innocent people are killed. Public property worth crores of rupees is damaged. Public peace is destroyed due to bitter memories of riots. People have, they are having mistrust, or they don't have mutual trust. Their mutual trust receives a setback. Now, how can we solve this problem? It's very simple. How can we solve this problem? How can we bring the trust between people? If the trust breaks, social unity receives a blow. How can a national unity can be achieved without social unity? Hence, it is necessary that we have to all counter this religious communalism with all our strength. For this, what are the steps which is recommended to overcome this communalism? The first step is we should be able to accept the practices and ideas of each other. We should go and gather and to be with them celebrating others' festivals. We should be able to look at and understand our economic and social problems rationally. We should not mix these questions with religion. We should search for economic, political, and historical reasons that are responsible for disturbing religious harmony. This is the only way we can put an end to communalism and strengthen national unity. Now, my dear students, we will see what is regionalism. Now, when I speak of regionalism, regionalism means excessive pride for one's region. We introduce ourselves, I am a Bengali or I am a Marathi. I think that is because I am a Bengali or I am a Marathi, I am superior to others from other provinces. It can be termed as an excessive regional pride. The love for one's province turns to be a kind of excessive regional pride. It is natural to feel love for one's province, but it should not become abnormal. Now, regionalism thrives on regional imbalance in development. In post-independence period, some states achieved more progress, some states remained backward. For example, states like Maharashtra, Gujarat, Punjab, Tamil Nadu developed economically and industrially, whereas the states like Odisha, Bihar, Assam remained undeveloped both economically and industrially. Economic development and reforms are the foundation of progress. As a result, the states that developed economically are also achieving progress in other areas like education, health, culture. The states which have not developed in this manner remain backward in education and civic amenities. The opportunities and the development available to the people in developed states are not possible for the people in the backward state. They are harassed by the problems of education backwardness, unemployment, poverty. They begin to think that they are being cheated. They have been kept away from the benefits of the development. Because of this, understanding between the states is broken. This in turn has a negative impact on national unity. The economic imbalance that has been endangered, this understanding needs to be set right. Our government makes effort in that direction. Regionalism can affect developed as well as undeveloped states. The people of the developed state begins to believe that they are superior due to their superior history and culture. Hence, they have developed that much. Then they begin to look down upon to the people in the undeveloped or underdeveloped region. They are not willing to share their benefit of development with the backward states. On the other hand, people from the backward area need to arouse their regional identity to organize themselves. For this, they tried unnecessarily glorify local tradition and culture to prove their uniqueness. This leads to regionalism. It endangers national unity. The evil of regionalism can be tackled by reducing imbalance in the development. Yes, my dear students, let me now conclude the lesson by saying that apart from these, there are several other problems like overpopulation, cleanliness, agriculture, and the problems of the farmers, poverty, housing, and food. We are trying to overcome all this and move forward. We are progressing steadily. Now, my dear students, in the next lesson, when I come with the next lesson, we'll come to know how our Indian government, through the 5-year plans, how our India developed economically. Thank you, my dear students, for your patient hearing.